I'm Shiva.
I'm Sandy.
And this is
Our Relaxing Hobby. So today we're going to talk a little bit about emergency kits, emergency supplies.
Yeah, we're going to talk about things that you really need to have in case of emergency.
Okay.
Now, here in Florida, we've got something called hurricanes. And we can expect, believe it or not, hurricanes are these really big storms that show up about every year.
You have warning.
Yeah, they do warn you.
They do warn you, but nobody ever thinks of their fish. 9 times out of 10, they're worrying about their home and their. But the koi are expensive fish, and you need to be prepared for things that happen.
Right. Well, a lot of people just also don't know what to do and what kind of equipment to have, what to have on hand. Once you get into fish keeping, you probably know some of this stuff, but we over prepare because we've got all these different tanks and ponds and whatnot. So we've got a big old setup with all kinds of equipment. We're going to
basically start with the easy thing: generators. A lot of people in Florida have generators.
Right.
And Shiva does have generators for her fish.
Mm-hmm.
But that's if there's only a storm and the power goes out. If transportation is different, we'll talk about that as well.
Yeah. Basically, when it comes to power outages, and this is something that's not necessarily unique to our area, you can also get them with blizzards, any kind of storm, any kind of emergency, even power grid goes out, something goes wrong with the electric company, anything. Electric going out. Sometimes it'll go out for several days. So, electric going out for like an hour or so, usually not a big deal. Electric going out for more than a couple hours, that starts getting dangerous, and then of course you start getting into days, and you're going to have a bunch of dead fish if you don't have some way of getting the pumps to operate, to get the filters to operate, and get aeration to them. So, there are ways to do battery pack operations.
Right, for smaller things.
For smaller tanks.
I don't know if they have them for bigger, but maybe.
Bigger tanks, you can get solar powered filters for outdoor ponds.
Okay.
But if you're dealing with a storm that's hanging over your place for several days, which slow-moving storms will, that's not going to help you.
Good, yeah. Okay.
So you really need to get generators. You can get a small generator for less than $100 that you would dedicate just to your ponds or whatnot. We've got a gigantic generator that can power half our house plus all our ponds.
Right.
So that's what we use. And we'll show you what that looks like. But you're going to want to have generator and your fuel for it on hand, and you're going to want that as soon as a storm even looks in your direction or something that's predictable like a blizzard or anything like that. It looks at your direction, you're going to want to make sure that your generator's working. You're going to want to make sure that you've got fuel. Sometimes, like when it comes to a blackout or something like that, you don't have that kind of warning.
Right.
Just make sure that you got it in
the best you can. Yeah.
Keep your extension cords next to it. Know where it is. As soon as it's safe to do so, you want to get that generator up, running, and get your tanks and your ponds going.
Right.
So generator is very important for if you're keeping a lot of fish.
Right.
The second thing that people forget about is aeration. It's one thing to have your filters running, which is great, but fish need air. This also is a cute trick to use when you're transporting fish as well, but it does work in a pinch if you're dealing with power outages for a couple days. Just make sure that you got enough batteries for it.
Right.
And that is bubble boxes, portable air pumps.
Right.
They are battery operated. They are really easy. This one.
Just an aerator, just batteries you have to keep on hand. You have to keep a lot of them.
Keep your batteries on hand, but there's little hooks that you can hook right up on your tank. Throw any type of air stone on the tube, throw it in there. Keep an eye on them. Most of them run for about maybe a day.
Yeah.
Some of them run fast, depending on the type of batteries you're using too. If you're using cheap batteries, you're going to be replacing them every day. If you're using really good batteries, you might get away with a couple days.
Right, we had rechargeable ones that you could use. It took about a day, but you had a second set, and you just replaced them and then recharge them and just kept going.
So these things are great for throwing emergency air into your tanks. They're also great for when you're transporting fish.
Yep.
In order to keep.
Or if you have an emergency in the tank, which we can talk about when we had like the leak, where we had to move some fish. So.
Yep. So bubble box is great to do.
Yeah.
The other problem, if you can't get your filters running, for whatever reason, the generator fails, run out of fuel, there's a million reasons why you might not be able to get your filters running. your biggest problem is going to be ammonia. Your fish are going
Quick.
your fish are going to excrete. They're not going to stop excreting just because there's an emergency.
Right.
You're going to want to make sure that they get air. That's the most important thing at that point.
Right.
So make sure you have your bubble boxes or something to get air to them. If you can't run your filters, then you're going to have to go chemical with it. What we use is Prime, which is an ammonia blocker.
Right.
You can also get something called Ammo Lock. This bottle will last a long time. I mean, we only
You put drops in, yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
literally...
mean, I have a 20-gallon tank and I put 20
it's
drops in the water
literally
change.
one capful for 50 gallons. So,
Right.
you know, for our 1,000-gallon koi pond, all we do is drop the water level a little bit to about 800 gallons, throw, you know, that much in. They're good for 24 hours. You have to do this every 24 hours.
Right.
It only lasts for that long. Then it releases again, and then you end up with a bunch of sick fish. So make sure you have lots of this on hand, depending on what kind of tanks you have. If you have like a 50-gallon tank, you're only going to need a capful every day. You can get away with one bottle on hand. We keep 3 bottles on hand because we've got the larger pond.
Right. I have a little tiny bottle that I have for my 20-gallon just in case.
Right. But this is going to be your emergency lifesaver if you can't get your filters running for any reason. You still do need to worry about aeration. So even if it means having to sit there with a cup and, you know, mixing up your water like every couple hours.
We were discussing it when I had my guppies and we lost power for 3 weeks. My bubble box broke. I didn't have one anymore, so I didn't have air.
Yeah.
I was okay with doing water changes because I could, you know, do water changes, but I couldn't aerate and I didn't have a filter. So I literally did water changes every other day. And what I would just do is literally take my hand once an hour and splash around in the tank, just to kind of aerate the tank for a little. And I did that once every couple hours. And for 3 weeks, I kept the guppies alive. I didn't lose not one. So it depends on the size of the tank. It depends on the type of fish. I mean, I was lucky; mine were very small fish. They probably don't require as much as goldfish in the koi because goldfish and koi seem to be
Bigger. They need.
They're bigger. They have more waste. I was really lucky, but like I said, I just kept the water changed and I just used my hand to aerate as much as I could. It was all I could think of to do, and for 3 weeks, you know.
Now,
you do what you have to do, but bubble boxes are great. They're much easier.
Yeah, bubble boxes.
I learned my lesson. I had the rechargeable batteries after that.
Yeah. Now, another thing we've had to do is, especially when it came to our outdoor ponds, is during like major storms and whatnot, we've had to move outdoor fish inside.
When we have to move them,
For that, we use, depending on the size of your fish, you can use 55-gallon tanks, which we've used. We bought 4 55-gallon tanks during a major storm. But then again, at the time, our big koi was 8 inches long.
Right.
Things have changed since then.
Right.
We literally had to move, like, I think between the koi and the comets, we had like 10 fish per tank.
Right.
And of course, we had the generator going with the filters and just constantly water changing.
Right. So you have to have something to keep them in if you have to move them.
Nowadays, we've got the indoor pond, but we also have like the inflatable kiddie pool, and we also have a dog bath set up, like we had Aeration.
Right.
And we can use those as well in order to bring some of our,
outdoor
prized
fish
outdoor fish in.
Or, and if you have to move in a car, you have to get a bunch of heavy duty totes.
Now, when it
that's a lot more complicated.
Yeah, when it comes to moving things in a car, or even just moving them from one room to the other, you're going to need heavy duty totes. You're going to need, if it's going to be a long move, like a car trip or something, you're going to need your air bubbler, you're going to need your Prime. But the most important thing is making sure that that tote is strong enough to be able to handle the water load.
The water load, yeah.
If you have too thin of a tote, it's going to collapse. You're going to have a wet car and a dead fish.
Right.
So you really need to make the investment, and I know it kills people that they have to spend like, $50, $60 on like a little freaking tote thing.
Right.
But you're looking for strength.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to find something that's going to be able to handle that kind of water load for $10.
Yeah, and especially, you think, okay, it'll be fine. I've carried my books in it. Well, for short periods of time, sure, you might be able to do it for a couple hours, but if you're moving it and you have to carry it and you have to pick it up, it's going to break.
Yeah.
The cheap ones are going to break. They're not going to be able to handle the load of water. Water is much heavier than you think it is.
Yeah, water is about 8 pounds per gallon. It's like, well, actually 7 point something pounds per gallon.
Yeah.
And if you're dealing with like a
30 gallon
bin, do the math.
Yeah.
So
you just, the heavy duty totes, it's worth it. It is worth it.
Yeah, do yourself a favor, invest depending on how many fish you have, like we've got several fish, so we've got several totes. Depending on the amount of fish you have, the size, make sure you've got enough totes to be able to move all of your fish.
Right.
Because you may end up needing it.
Hopefully not.
Yeah,
but just in case.
But it's important to.
Yeah, I think I don't know if we have any. We have some footage of a couple of the fish in the different.
We do.
We don't have the. We never set up the big pool, but the little pools.
We've set up the little pool and we've set up the bins. So we'll have
a little bit of footage of that just to kind of show you, because like a lot of times, like when we brought in some fish, we brought in the geisha, and we brought in Tora, and a couple. We put them in the totes for a couple of hours and slowly did the water change so that they acclimatized, because you can't just throw them in there, and they were too big for bags.
Yeah. I mean,
so we literally transported them in totes from one place, from where we bought them to here.
Yeah, but these are just things that people don't think about, is how do you keep your fish alive during emergencies.
No.
And it's just do yourself a favor, otherwise it's going to be a lot of heartbreak if you're particularly fond of your fish. And worst case scenario, you're in the dark and you've got dead fish smelling up in the house.
Yeah, I never thought of that, but okay, thanks.
That is something
thanks for that.
To think about.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it doesn't come to that, and hopefully you never experience that, but you always want to be prepared and have a few things on hand. The bubble boxes are a great, easy, and the prime is a great, easy thing to just have.
Yeah,
have a couple of totes just in case. You don't have to have a million, but just in case.
Yeah.
For your favorite fish, at least.
Yeah.
We have favorites. I have favorites.
Yeah.
Of her fish. If I had to pick some to take with me.
So basically that's pretty much it, and we'll show you a few of some of our equipment.
Okay.
And some fish, stuck in our equipment.
All right. Let's do it.